All right, here today to talk about sharpness, holding your camera to get good photos. Jessica here with said camera, all right? And it's imperative to get sharpness in your image. You can do things where you have blurred areas like you normally see with like blurred water, waterfalls, streams, things of that nature. But the thing you want to avoid is some sort of overall camera shake. There's a difference between capturing movement and having shaky photos. Remember, as things move across the plane, go like this, Jessica, if you play with your hand, back and forth, yep, with your hand. Things going across the plane will blur more than things going towards the camera, okay? So the difference is you can capture blur, you can capture movement, but everything else should be sharp. If we have somebody on a bicycle running across the frame, the ground and the sky and everything like that should be nice and sharp and in focus, whereas the person on the bicycle would be blurry. And I refer to that as camera shake. You've probably seen that in the discussion boards. You will see that in the discussion boards. But essentially what that is from you moving the camera too much as you're taking, this is overly exaggerated, moving the camera too much as you're taking the photo and thereby causing a blur in the entire thing, whereas you can't find one area of sharpness. So, as a general rule, these work for both point and shoot and DSLR photos. She's got a DSLR there with her. But normally, the one thing that we do is you want to avoid the one-hand shot. Because what happens with the one-hand shot, depending on the type of camera, it's a lot harder to keep it straight because you've got it outbalanced here. If you're at the zoo and you're trying to get the penguins and you're totally stretched out, leaning over the fence, trying to get a shot of I don't know any penguin names, of a penguin or a bear, it's going to be a lot harder. So the thing that essentially you want to do is get two hands on the camera, all right? And this helps, but you've still got a little bit of wiggle back and forth. Nothing's really anchored. With the one hand camera shot, the problem is if you've got a DSLR like that, generally the lenses are heavier, so the camera's going to want to tip downwards, so you're going to be fighting it to hold it up. Whereas if you've got a point and shoot, most of the weight is going to want to go inwards. So you're always going to be fighting the camera that way. And granted, they are fairly light, but if you're holding it over the fence trying to get the photo of the polar bear, your arm's going to tire and the camera's going to start to dip down and you're going to have a hard time. All right? Essentially then what you want to do is plant your elbows. As much as you can. You feel like an idiot the first few times you do this. But especially if you've got a viewfinder, some of the cameras at Nikon there, you can turn on a live view or you can look at the viewfinder and take pictures from there. Definitely it's easier with an LCD screen, but if you get both hands on the camera with your elbows anchored into your hips, that stabilizes everything quite a bit, and it's a very, very good start. And you reduce the rock back and forth that you might have with the camera. You definitely alleviate the side-to-side function. Notice how her head turns as she does the side-to-side with the camera as well. That's cute. So that is an important thing to think about. I'm going to zoom out here so we can see potentially. The other thing, I can't turn the sides because that will completely ruin everything that we want to do. Look back here a bit. All right. The next thing you want to look at, you've got the camera anchored nice into your waist and being held with both hands. The other problem comes with your legs. The best thing that you can have to stabilize a camera is a tripod. Make sure that's in the frame there. So you want to try and mimic a tripod as much as possible, because you definitely don't want to take this guy out to the bar and embarrass all of your friends with this big gigantic tripod. If you're out shopping for a tripod, things that are important to think about are essentially the thickness of the legs and the quality of the materials. A lot of the $20 tripods are $20 tripods, and if you lift them up really high, they just wobble all over the place and you can't get them really, really solid. Go for aluminum over plastic anytime. It's going to be a lot stronger and a lot denser. And work towards bigger, thicker legs if you can, because that'll stabilize the camera as well. So from the handheld point with your arms tucked in, both hands on the camera, by opening up your legs, what you do is you lower essentially your center of gravity. You've got a really solid, firm basis to plant your feet. You're not going to have a really, really hard time trying to take pictures that way. If you're on one leg, got a leg kicked back behind, anything like that.
I don't have that good balance.
If you don't have really good balance, it's even worse. You can wobble all over the place. Obviously, you're not going to do that. But even having your feet totally planted together, you end up as kind of a monopod. It's kind of a stick holding a camera. So it is a little bit harder to kind of get a good solid feel that way. A lot of these things you don't notice if you're doing this, you know, all this video is going, trying to replicate some of this stuff. You won't notice it in a couple of seconds. But if you think about a day at the zoo, a day at a car show, something like that, where you're getting up and down and carrying a camera, trying to hold it with one hand, you fatigue. I had an old camera where if I ever went to a car show, I had really big hands, and the grip was just small enough that my inside of my palm, where my pinky fingers, would be bruised every time I come back after shooting for a couple hours because there'd be that much pressure on that hand. So it does take a toll on you over a big time. All right, so we've got the wide angle stance set up. The other things you want to look at, and again, you feel really stupid when you do these, but one of them is the over the shoulder shot. Just turn side camera right there on your shoulder. All right.